What are the simple, boring precepts that will actually make our mixes so much better if we just use them consistently? My mentor taught me something really cool about frequency masking. And the way he explained it to me was that frequency masking is important in general, or rather frequency unmasking, because you want to make sure that the most important things in your mix are clear at all times, because as a listener, our brain literally can only hear and process 2 or 3 things that are actually happening in the piece of music at any one time. And so based on that, he gave me a concept to make sure that those very important elements of my mix are always present, and it's the big 3. Now with this concept, you use it to guide you on the things that should be the most loud and most present in your mix. I prefer the word most present, or I prefer the phrase most present to loudest, simply because it gets the idea across better, but let me talk you through it. Basically, you're gonna want your low end to be the loudest thing in the mix. Kicks, bass, 808s, and things of that nature. The next loudest thing in your mix is actually going to be the main snare. So these things are driving that body, the energy, and the rhythm. Then the third loudest, or the third most present thing, is actually going to be that lead vox, those vocals. Now, this gets into why I use the word present instead of loud, because loudness can sometimes accidentally imply that you mean more by gain amount, when that isn't necessarily true, and that might be a bad way to judge it, especially since things like lead voxes, or if you are working on an instrumental, it would be the main melody. Those kinds of things have a very wide frequency distribution that allows them to be louder without as much like amount of gain actually applied to it if you measured it by decibels, right? So like your vox, for example, might actually be a little bit quieter than some of the drum elements, or especially if you're working on something like an instrumental. But that being said, you can use things like effects and equalization to make sure that it's still very present. When I was studying daily under my mentor, he demonstrated that this concept will work really well for many types of genres: pop, pop rock, metal, hip hop, R&B, and things of that nature. So let me just give you a practical demonstration of the big 3. So if we get into this project, I've already done a lot of mixing and processing, but it doesn't mean we can't still demonstrate this, because it is something I still am working on. So if we start with this low-end composite track, we know that based off of what we've talked about so far, this has got to be the loudest, most present thing in our mix. Great, I like how it's hitting, I like its presence overall, it's good. That's just gonna be kind of my anchor, right? So now the next thing we've got to add is that main clap, and I'm not gonna consider any other drums except that. Okay, I really like that. I just tweaked the volume just a little bit right now, but barely. I just reduced it slightly so that it could be a little bit less present than that 808. And then later I actually will sidechain the clap to the 808 so that it dips it. As a matter of fact, why don't we just do that right now? So what I'm gonna do is sidechain this big drum bus to the low end composite. Then I'm gonna add a fruity limiter, open my preset from Band for Band, the basic sidechainer, and then I'll set this up really quickly. And that's gonna let that clap be even more present. And that's what I'm going for always, is that presence, and sidechaining is one way that I can take care of that. Check out the Band for Band full guide down below if you wanna learn more about how I do a lot of this signal flow stuff. It's 100% free, it's right here on this YouTube channel. And then next is that vox, that's that last thing that's gotta be most present.
Nigga broke, filet-o-trout. We got rich by running routes. Kept this shit on fucking lock, like my name was Eddie House. Shout out all my Crips, blue bandana on my head.
So right, whereas that 808 was like right at 1 and that clap was like right around 1.52, that vox is like right around -3, which makes sense just based on how I level stuff. Understanding this big 3 concept, seeing it in demonstration is good, so now I'm just analyzing that.
Nigga broke, filet-o-trout. We got rich by running routes. Too close and you get clipped. I only bow down to my blick. Give me lip, I up my shit. Hey, shout out to my po. And you get hit, you touch my sip.
Solid, I really like that. All of those elements sound clear and in relationship to each other based on the big 3, everything is good. So from here, you just literally fit everything else into that. So let's start with the complementing accent drums.
Nigga broke, filet-o-trout. We got rich by running routes. Kept this shit on fucking lock, like my name was Eddie House. Shout out all my Crips, blue bandana on my head. Take a look or take a pic.
Now let's fit in that melody.
Blue bandana on my head. Take a look or take a pic, but get too close and you get clipped. I only bow down to my blick. Give me lip, I up my shit.
Let's just take a look at tonal balance real quick and see what it tells us, even though I'm not at that phase of the mix yet.
Nigga broke, filet o trout. We got rich by running routes. Kept this shit on fucking lock, like my name was Eddie House. Shout out all my Crips, blue bandana on my hip. Take a look or take a pic, but get too close and you get clipped. I only bow down to my blick.
So it looks pretty solid so far. So the big three pretty much always does that, gives me a really good foundation. And then I clean it up with other skills, bits of knowledge, and tools like tonal balance, meters, spectral analysis, and things of that nature.